It's Chelsea.
It's Nina.
And you're in the Critics' Kingdom. So today we're going to be discussing Camp Rock.
Camp Rock! Oh, you guys can't see me, but I just did.
She did the rock symbol.
Like the wolf's head.
With, I think it's, I don't know what the title
anyway,
is.
But that's something else. It's like a camp thing. But works!
Yes, with our guest, Katie, who will be up once we get to the review portion of things, darlings. It came out in 2008, which I think for both of us was like 15, right?
Yeah.
Were you both 15?
I was too old for this.
I think I might have watched this at some point, but I think I only saw it like once, and I didn't really remember much of it until we rewatched it, and I was like, oh, okay, I forgot half the plot.
I definitely had not seen anything. So I guess on that note, should I remind you of the plot? Or, I mean, we just watched it, but the rest of the folk.
Yeah.
Alright.
Let's get to the recap.
Let's go. So, it starts off and, it's essentially we get an immediate song, which is the musical's immediate song. It's sort of our main character, Mitchie's morning routine. We see her sort of playing false keyboards and stuff, and clearly, I might want to be a star. That's the basic gist of that. At breakfast, she is talking to her mom, and her mom is like, I found another Camp Rock brochure somewhere that obviously brochures don't belong, like in the fridge. I know you really want to go to this camp. I know you love to sing. I know it's your dream. We can't afford it this year because her catering business is just taking off, and her father, who owns a hardware store, is trying to expand his business. So she's bummed about that, goes to school, still bummed about that, comes home, and lo and behold, from her mom, guess what? You actually can go to Camp Rock because they approached me about being the caterer for the camp for the summer. So she's going to, be up there in the kitchens, and that means that her daughter can go at a discounted rate if she also helps out in the kitchens. So great, we arrive at Camp Rock, and at first everything's going kind of smoothly. She meets Caitlin, played by the wonderful Allison Stoner.
Yeah.
And, so in theory makes a quick friend, but then she also sees this other girl, Tess Tyler, who's, walking around like she owns the place. Turns out she's the daughter of, a big pop star there. And, Caitlin Mitchie sort of sets her sights on her to a certain degree, or is just like, wow, everybody here is so much of a big deal already, and I'm just sort of a small fry.
Yeah, or has, famous parents, or parents in the business in general.
Yeah, they're on their way.
Yeah.
And she's so very not, and just, regular, sort of run-of-the-mill, middle-class America.
Mm-hmm.
So, at first she's living in the cabin with her mom, and, she's kind of struggling with, not feeling great about all of that. Goes to the first night's, big, their opening night situation. We get a performance by another one of the members of the camp, Lola, I believe her name is. She's Caitlin's friend. And at this little situation, she's asked sort of, about... They misread her last name to be the name of, a music person. And when she says no, her dad works in hardware, she sort of sees the look she gets from Tess, and that makes her then decide in that moment to lie about what her mother does, and make it seem like, she's also the child of a big deal music industry exec, essentially. And she tells her mom that she's going to, move into Tess's cabin so she can be with her friends. Her mom's like, all right, cool, that's fine, because she's understanding about it, obviously. She still has to work in the kitchens, but she's trying to, sneak around and do that so as to have nobody see her. And meanwhile, we see that... So the Jonas Brothers are also in this. I'm sure you already know that. I didn't know that, obviously. The Jonas Brothers are also in this. And so, meanwhile, we know that one of the members of the Jonas Brothers band in this called Connect 3... Shane Gray, played by Joe Jonas, that he is essentially, he's the bad boy of the group, and he's going to end up being at this camp because it's actually run by his uncle. So he's going to, he's there for the summer, and he's going to, help teach a class and all of that good stuff. And while he's there, he's going to be on the hunt for, a female voice to help him record So we know that all of this is happening, and on the first day of camp, they're in class and they're in their singing class, or music class, and the owner of the camp essentially asks her to sing because she's the only one who doesn't raise her hand when he asks who wants to give us a solo, and she starts to sing and she's really shy about it. She sings again, and we all hear she has this amazing voice, which is kind of a big deal. And then later she has to go back to the kitchens, and she's in there helping her mom. And then Shane walks in. Shane Gray is his full name. He walks in, and she freaks out because she doesn't want anyone to know that she works in the kitchen, because she's now told this whole lie that she's got to keep up. So she just dusts herself with flour. Very dramatic. And he's being rude, and she essentially just reads him and is stop it. Which I think makes him, he's oh, no one's ever talked to me like that before. And walks out. But then he, goes and essentially, we see him talking to his uncle before he begins teaching this dance class. And his uncle essentially is Shane, you've changed. You're not who you once were. So they have this dance class. A little bit later, there's this campfire that night. And we see that she's singing backup now for Tess instead of singing on her own, much to Caitlin's dismay. Caitlin's why would you want to sing backup for Tess and not just be your own person? But again, clearly, or that she doesn't seem like the backup type, but again, clearly Mitchie is, going through some self-acceptance situation. So they perform. I think it's a hot mess of a performance, but I can understand how the children might have liked it. I think there are too many people on that stage, but, that's a personal qualm. And so now she's rolling in Tessa's crew. They live together. That's her crew now. In the cafeteria, Tess is essentially just mad rude to Caitlin and throws food on her. She pours food on her, which makes Caitlin respond by, throwing food back. And Mitchie ends up getting involved as well, and then the owner of the camp comes and sees them all doing that, and they all sort of get in trouble, but Tess makes the argument that she didn't throw any food first, which is technically true, but obviously the girl instigated the whole situation, and the camp owner believes her, but, Mitchie doesn't stand up for Caitlin, and she doesn't stand up to Tess. She doesn't really tell the truth about what she saw. So, we sort of see that happening. And the whole consequence of that is that now Caitlin is going to have to work in the kitchens. Much to, Mitchie's dismay. You see what happens? Web of lies, children. Webs of lies. But we also see that, she and Shane are beginning to, kind of bond a bit, because she stumbles upon him, working on music in the forest near the lake. Well, I guess it's the bank. Anyway, by the lake, and so they start, he, shows her a few songs that he's working on. It's all very cute. Clearly, okay, there's something building here. What Shane doesn't know is that she is actually the one who sang that song. He overheard a voice singing, very Little Mermaid, overheard a voice singing, and is that's the voice that I want for my record, but doesn't know that it's Mitchie. So they're doing their little bonding dance. It's all cute, etc. But then she goes back to help her mom in the kitchen and essentially gets caught. Caitlin's oh, you liar. But, she sort of asks her not to tell anyone and the whole situation. She's fine, I still think that you don't need to do this, but whatever. They go to this pajama party, and, Tess is, kind of being a dick to Caitlin again, and Mitchie, this time, actually stands up for her, by sort of telling Tess to, stop being herself, stop being so difficult all the time. So, because of this, Tess is now not necessarily all about Mitchie anymore, which leads her to end up essentially just finding out that Mitchie is actually not who she says she is, that her mom is really the cook, and she tells everyone after Connect 3 / the Jonas Brothers does their performance, and the whole camp is kind of what the hell, why would you lie about who you are? That's not cool. So she's sort of shamed for that for a little bit. But then a little bit later, when Tess is kind of being an ass again, she really stands up for herself, and essentially tells Tess to, like, put it somewhere, which, again, makes Tess even more upset, and Tess overhears that the person that, not Joe Jonas, what's his name in this?
Shane Gray,
that the person that Shane Gray is actually looking for is, she recognizes the song lyrics that he says, and she confirms by going through Mitchie's things that it is Mitchie. So now she's determined to not have Mitchie perform in the final jam, which is like the end of camp show, and it's a big like contest, and it's like an annual tradition at Camp Rock. So she essentially plants this charm bracelet that she has on Mitchie, like in the kitchen. Brings the owner, says that she and Caitlin stole it, and, they deny it, but then the charm bracelet is there, so the owner is like, okay, you guys are banned from, like, all camp activities until the end of the final jam, so that includes the final jam, obviously. And, it's upsetting, but then we essentially go to the final jam. It's the end of camp. And we see a bunch of performances, get Hasta La Vista, which is cute, like nice choreography situation go there. Tess is getting ready to perform, and she's being herself, so, being difficult with her two backup singers, Peggy and other backup singer. Sorry.
Peggy and other backup singer.
I mean... Listen, so they're like, you know what, screw you, we're done. And so now Tess has to go on stage alone, but we do see that her mom has actually shown up, and her mom's like a mega superstar, so obviously that's a big deal. But then her mom takes a call in the middle of her performance, which literally makes Tess run off the stage crying. And yes, we do get to see that Tess also has it rough. It's no excuse for being how horrible she is, though, so... There is a basic line of empathy, but no sympathy for this girl. I'm just come down on that. Then we get another additional performance, and it's, Margaret, and everybody's like, who's Margaret? Oh, no, it's Peggy. And Peggy comes out, and she does her little rock ballad, singing about, here I am. Presenting herself to the world. Everybody loves it. And then... it's the end of the final jam, and because the owner of the camp isn't soulless, he's like, hey, Caitlin, Mitchie, why don't you guys go and perform? And they're like, what do you mean? He's like, it's the end of the final jam. Go perform.
Oh, I think they ask him.
Oh, do they?
Yeah. Because remember they do that Armageddon feedback thing while he's, like, at the end?
Oh, and then they ask...
And
okay.
And then they're
understood. I thought he was just nice. I must have missed that.
He was like, I hope you guys would catch on. Because that's what he was trying to get them to do that.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah.
So then, Lil Mitchie performs. We see that, like, Shane hears her and is like, oh, you're the one! And then he begins to sing his little song. We get a cute little duet at the end. But then a window, for multiple reasons, I think, Peggy was generally better, but also probably because the prize is to record with him, and if he's part of the performance, I don't think it counts. Anywho, Peggy Witt actually ends up winning the whole final jam situation. It's all really cute, and then they do their like final performance, We Rock, and it's another very well choreographed, very cute little moment, and everybody's accepted themselves and loves themselves now, and that is Camp Rock.
Yep, we'll be right back with the review and Katie.
So to get into the review, today we have with us a former coworker of mine, Katie.
As if I'm a coworker. We're not even friends.
A very good friend. Damn. Very good friend. But that is
holy shit.
Very good friend. Well, obviously, like, we only have, like, true homies on this podcast. Or at least we have so far.
Fair.
So,
fair.
there you go.
I'll take it.
There you go.
Take what I can.
She's a great one. She's a great one. That's how I feel. But, yeah, Katie's with us because she really enjoyed Camp Rock when she was younger.
I can tell that you don't want to sell me down the river, so I'll just sell myself, which is, like, when this movie premiered, I was, 16? And I definitely did watch it Friday night, the night it premiered, at home by myself. That is the kind of person that I am. Not even was. There's no past tense.
And but like in the greatest of ways, like it's part of what makes you wonderful. It's what makes me love you. So, with that said, I guess that we can just sort of
start talking about the movie. I feel like this one. I remember I watched it when it came out as well. I just truly forgot about it until we rewatched. I forgot all the details until we rewatched it. I feel like the first thing that we kind of noticed was just like the assault with all of the colors and the fashions.
And the textures.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on. There's a lot of little chains and little scarves. There's a crochet vest that
lots
literally
of ties
looks like tree moss
on women.
On this girl.
And a lot of
the forest.
Tunics with jeans, dresses with jeans, everything with jeans at summer camp.
At summer camp.
A lot of boots.
Because Disney clearly had them shooting this in winter.
There are green boots. There are Minnetonkas.
There's a lot going on.
Justice for the Minnetonkas. They saw an end.
That was a time.
They deserve better.
But also, like, we've talked about it on the podcast before, but how, like, fashion was dark. Like, 06 on until, like, a couple years ago, it was just, like, a dark time for everyone. And this just personified it from the necklaces to
it's just that there's so many of them, though.
Yeah.
In this one. Like, there's so many of them that you're seeing so many versions of just horrible choices all around.
I feel like that era of clothing was a lot about quote-unquote, like, statement, like the statement belt around your dress or your statement earrings, but if everyone's making a statement, it's really loud. Like,
it's just so
it's
good.
Really loud.
It's so loud. Everyone's statement everywhere. Whew.
Yeah, and it was felt. But I guess at the same time, though, it's supposed to be, it's a rockers camp, and that's what, like, rockers do. Mm-hmm. So I guess it tracks theme-wise with, like, what these children are, in theory, hoping to become one day. Or if they are not that already to varying degrees.
Well, that's what we talked about before also was, like, when I watched this movie at 16, I was like, oh yeah, like, they brought the Jonas Brothers in to get older, tweens and teens to watch it, but, like, it is truly, like, a kid's movie. Like, it's about the kids, and, like, those bright colors and everyone making a statement really tracks for kids at kids' summer camp.
Yeah, and I mean, and that makes sense, because I know that my younger sister, who has obviously come up on this podcast so many times,
shout out to her.
Right?
Yeah.
You grew into a full person, and it's nice. But, yeah, she was, maybe 9 when this came out? 8 or 9, and when I brought up that we were doing this one, or, when I was asking, like, hey, like, when did you stop watching Disney Channel? Like, what were your favorite Disney Channel original movies? Like, this one was up there for her with, like, High School Musical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It falls into the same, and it seems like it is for a lot of people, because it's, the third?
It's the third highest rated DCOM, like, right after HSM, High School Musical, and Wizards of Waverly Place movie.
So, yeah, it obviously tracks for a whole generation, for sure.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that would make sense that she would like it as much as she does, because she was actually the target demographic.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Was that age group, like, not the maybe 12, which is, I think, what High School Musical probably targeted more.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that, too. I think they seemed a little older in High School Musical, even though they were probably about the same age.
I think it's also the structure of being in school versus, like, being in camp.
Yeah. That too, yeah, for sure. And I don't think camp as a high school thing is strange to me.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
Yeah, not completely strange, so I guess people come back as counselors, but it's just a little...
Yeah. No, now that you say that, it is a little bit... Or I personally was not really familiar with kids really going to, like, this type of camp once you got out of, like, 10th grade. Like, once you got past 9th grade.
Yeah. Yeah, and her friends take an AP Mandarin, so I don't...
Yeah, so they're older, like...
Yeah. Yeah, you're taking an AP class, so you must be at least in 10th or 11th.
Yeah, it's like, like you're much older, and I guess at that point, in my experience, like, it's not full-on internships, but your summer things are... If you're doing something over the summer, like, it's if you are going to, like, some sort of
get
camp,
an accolade of some
it's
sort.
not necessarily, like, woodsy camp.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, alright, maybe you're doing like a language camp, so it's like, alright, you're doing it like at Middlebury. I just happen to know Middlebury does language camps over the summer.
Yeah.
For high school kids. I wanted to do an Arabic one. My mom was like, we don't got the money for that. Sorry.
Well, you know what? Mitchie's mom said that, and then she made it happen. So.
Right? My mom should have cooked there. My mom's a cook. What the hell?
Yeah, no, that could have been your life.
This is actually very upsetting because now I never did get to learn Arabic. You know, like I've got like a bunch of other like very old languages under my belt, but I don't have Arabic.
And that's your mom's fault.
And it's my mom's fault because she could have.
She didn't come up with the plan.
Skied her way into that camp.
She didn't come up with the plan to cook at the camp.
Significantly less money.
Before we shit on your mom like this, though, like it's your fault for not wanting it enough. She was taking brochures into like the crisper, the back of the vacuum. You weren't doing that.
And you know what? It's also fully my fault because I didn't watch this movie. If I had watched this movie, I would have known
what to do.
I would have known the scheme, and I would have been on top of it, and I would have gone to Arabic camp. So it's actually entirely my fault.
Yeah,
no, but I do think
Disney
it
gave
is
you
true.
the roadmap to get there, and you were like, no.
No, I was too busy. I was too busy getting high in Central Park. Like that's what I was doing with my time instead of.
Tisk,
We
tisk.
already know that I'm a heathen. We've already established.
Tisk tisk. But no, I think it is true because I remember when I went to. I didn't even do a camp. I just remember I did like they called them at summer sessions at Brown. I did that like between junior and senior year, and I feel like that's like a thing in high school. Is you do summer sessions or you do something to like. I did like a young leaders conference. Like you're not doing like a Camp Watahatchee. At 16 years old.
Was that a made up name or is that an actual camp?
No, I think it's a made up name, but it might also be an actual.
It also
camp.
could be actual. That's why I just want to know.
Like I wouldn't be surprised if that's like a white people camp name.
Yeah. That sounds right.
Like if somebody was like, I went to Camp Watahatchee up in upstate New York, I'd be like, that tracks.
A lot of the camps that I like knew of ended in wood. There was like Crestwood and Tanglewood, and it was like then like they would get old and their signs would fall apart, and they would be like Creekwoo. And then it'd be like Tangalad. Like they lose all their letters. It was just really funny.
That's so sad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think that's an interesting point because this really does seem like it should have been for like them in middle school. I think that would have made a lot more sense.
Yeah.
If they were like going into 8th grade or something,
or even going into high school.
Yeah.
Like if this was like if they all seemed to be on that cusp.
Yeah.
I wonder if, like, the Jonas Brothers were the catalyst to shift older. Like, if they wanted just Nick, the youngest one, who probably was, like, freshman in high school, maybe, like, the end of middle school when he was doing this, and they needed they were like, we're a band, and they band, I'm speculating, of course, but, like, they band
we're a band.
And, like, they had to get the two older brothers, and then they were like, well, now we gotta bump the whole thing up. Now everyone's gotta be older.
I mean, because Demi also reads young.
Yeah, she.
Yeah, no, I think her and Nick are like the same age.
I think they are.
Or if anything, she maybe is like a year a year older than him. But like, I know Joe is old. Like, no shade to him. But like, for the rest of the cast,
he greases his lips.
We can't talk about Joe being old and not acknowledge Kevin. Kevin, the oldest.
Oh yeah, Kevin is old. Joe is old.
But they're small men in this.
They are. But they were probably both actively like upper teenagers. Like probably like 19.
Right. And she was like maybe 15. Like,
right. Yeah.
Which means she couldn't play 13.
Yeah. Right.
In Disney? Absolutely.
Yeah, of course. Because, I mean, this was also when they were, they had just started that reality show, Jonas, which I think you talked about briefly, Katie. But they had started that reality show, like, the year that this came out.
Mm-hmm.
So they were starting to get their, like, whole Disney start. And it was beginning to take off. But, yeah.
Yeah, and even with Jonas, they did it all as a group. It was never like Nick and separately Joe and separately Kevin. It was like the Jonas Brothers.
Yeah, they were a brand, a brand and a band,
and they were, and it was mania for a while.
Oh yeah,
like that Bieber fever nonsense.
The girls were in love.
Maybe that's why some of them watched the premiere of this movie by themselves on a Friday night at 16. I don't know. I'm speculating again.
I'm so happy you did, though. I'm happy that you did that. I'm happy that happened. I'm sure you're not alone.
No, I'm
sure that there are millions of 16-year-olds.
No, so many.
I'm sure I was
girls
texting my best friend about it.
Like, maybe a couple.
So many. I feel like a lot of girls used to love the Joe Bros. Like that was a thing.
Yeah.
They were like a trend for a while there. They used to be on like all the little notebooks and stuff.
Oh yeah.
The stickers.
No, the notebooks. Like their faces were on the notebooks.
Oh,
no, like a whole notebook.
Yeah, like the notebook had their faces on it. They were huge.
Correct. Yes. I think that they made like clothes with like their faces.
They had clothes.
Because like
I know the
tied
merch.
into the brand of Jonas, like the show. It was weird. It was
composition notebooks.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
That is deep.
Yes.
I didn't go that far. Right. I kept it to like just watching this film.
I think that I was past composition notebooks at that point in my life.
What did you move on to? Loose leaves?
Yeah, it was like I did a lot of loose leaves.
I was a spiral kid.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But
I gave up composition notebooks as soon as possible because I like the freedom of the spiral notebook.
I like the geometric patterns that they would do on the front of the spiral ones. I would get like a few plain ones and a few geometric, and obviously color coded for my various subjects.
I love this.
Greek was always brown. It was like a brown plaid one that I had. That was pretty, or checker box that I had. That was pretty fucking dope. Because the salt of the earth.
Goodbye.
Tangents. Oh, the tangents. Aren't they so fun?
I think something else that we had in here, speaking of the Jonas Brothers, was like, I don't know who decided to straighten Joe and Kevin's hair, but I could see the heat damage. It did not look good.
It was actively atrocious. And then Kevin, I think Katie, you kept saying, is it Kevin? Am I getting that one right?
Yeah,
with the mutton chops?
The mutton chops to his
Too
goddamn
much.
neck. Yes. That one hurts me. I hate seeing in any film, when the hair has been blown out or straightened and you can see that it has been, because you can see the natural pattern of the hair and it's not done well. This is, even more egregious because not only can you see it, you can see the damage.
Yeah.
It is just burned.
Yeah, especially on Kevin.
Oh, poor Kevin.
Poor Kevin. It was not. I was like, good Lord, they need to free your curls.
And you're 20 years old.
Or
I would have
your
been
waves.
listen, Mom, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
He's 20 years old, but he's like, Mom.
Mom! They lived at home.
Exactly.
They're momager for sure.
Are they Italian? Is that what? Am I making that up? I mean, that's how I feel too, but I don't know.
I don't know.
Are they just from Jersey? Is that
I think they're just
I'm
from
not
Jersey.
sure.
Is it just the Jersey?
Let me see. Let me look up.
Maybe they're like Italian Irish.
They could be. Hold
Catholic.
on.
Like
Give
that
it a
seems
second.
to
They're
track
definitely Catholic because the
in my
purity
mind.
ring.
Nah,
That's
they're
what
not.
I'm saying.
They're not Italian. Their mom's last name is Miller.
So alright.
They're white.
So they're
and
just
from
white.
Jersey. Yeah.
They're just white.
It's just appropriated Italian by proxy from Jersey.
Well, yeah, no, it's the Jersey. If you're Jersey and Catholic to me goes one of two ways, and for some reason I went Italian with them, or thought they had some level of Italian.
Yeah.
They're not even
that
Catholic.
might be because of
They're not.
They're not Catholic.
No.
No, they're Christian. They're
wow.
Assemblies of God
I
Christians.
really made that up.
Oh, okay.
I think it's because Nick Jonas plays basketball and shaved his head and has.
What?
I'm sorry. How did you
Doesn't-
get there?
I think it's because in Nick Jonas's older now personification, I associate him with a lot of color. Let's put it that way.
Because his wife's of color?
No, but just because I feel does he chill with Drake and shit? He has a lot
No.
of hip hop shit.
I was
No,
like, he did
No.
Kingdom.
wow, this is
Are you
entirely.
talking about Justin Bieber?
I really
Yeah,
don't
Justin
know who
Bieber
I'm
hangs
talking
out
about.
with Drake.
Justin
and,
Bieber hangs out with the blacks.
No, because
Nick
maybe
is not.
he played in an All-Star game though, right? Like a celebrity
Yes, he
All-Star
did.
basketball
Probably.
game. Okay,
But I feel like most
I think
of them
it's
do.
singularly. Thank you. From watching that, I concocted a whole backstory for this man.
Yes,
Did you make him John B in your head?
I think so. I really think I did.
That's not Nick.
And,
he did do a very good cover of Jealous though with a all black choir that was really good.
Maybe that's part of it too. Maybe it's
But
all of these things have.
I never put that onto his actual.
And
persona.
then being with Priyanka, I was just like, oh, okay.
He lives
he's
his
one
life
of
in
those.
color.
Yeah, but apparently that's just not true. That was a projection, so I guess I take that.
Is it also because he kept his hair natural? Is that something that you're tying into this
It could be.
story?
It could be
too?
the whole. It's yeah. I
brother
think
and
it's
brother too.
It's because he could have been using can too.
exactly.
She felt independently.
Exactly because his brothers sat underneath the hot coat and he was like, I'm not doing that.
He said, "No, not my
refuse.
not my natural locks."
Exactly. So that's what I did. I projected all of the things that I was feeling inside.
The poor heat damage those boys suffered for this. But this was also a thing at that time. I remember a lot of the alt rock bands, all the boys would have that exact type of long straight hair.
But was it straight? Because the way that Joe's is cut, it's like it straightens.
It's like
and
layers.
has a body wave and then goes back. It's rough. It's really it's a mullet rough in the back. Like it's probably like
because they were probably trying to make him look like all the other bands where they have naturally straight hair. So all they had to do was just cut the little, cut the layers and then like bump it a little bit. That's what they did with a lot of them. You know what I'm talking about. Y'all remember Fall Out Boy? Okay, Pete Wentz always had a cute little flare up.
And it's like, honestly, it reminds me of like the fourth Harry Potter movie where everyone grew their hair out, but like all the hair textures are not made to be grown out like that. Yeah. And like that's exactly what this felt like, but like worse.
Yeah, it just doesn't make, because again, like Katie said, it wasn't done well. And again, I would like to bring up Pete Wentz, who is half Jamaican and literally has nappy hair, and literally I'm sure had a relaxer all these years to get his hair as straight as it was, but it always looked straight as hell. That's why people didn't know he was half Jamaican for years.
True.
Because you couldn't tell.
It's because you couldn't.
You couldn't tell.
Which is what the relaxer's supposed to do. So it works.
It gets the Negro out. That's exactly what it does. And it worked.
Just throw some lye on it.
That being said, the brothers Jonas are not.
They're not.
There's no, in real time, we just looked up that they're not Italian, that they're white, and they're not
they're literally
Catholic,
just regular white.
So
they're literally just regular white.
Yeah.
So
her last name is Miller, their last name is Jonas. I mean,
they're just white.
Who knows?
Oh God.
But yes.
I really don't know where that came from. Really don't know.
But if we're going to talk about names, we should talk about Demetria Devon.
Yes. Her name is literally Demetria Devon Lovato. That's like her full whole name.
I just don't know why she didn't drop Lovato and go by Demetria Devon. It's amazing.
Maybe for like the Latin, so you know that she's like half Latina.
I don't know though. Like,
I don't know if I read, like, obviously it is, but
I read it when I read her last name though. Like as soon as her name was Demi Lovato, I was like, oh. It was like Selena Gomez. Like I was just like, this isn't a question.
Maybe
Gomez,
it was
Cameron Diaz.
Yeah. Maybe it was so like ingrained that like I just didn't even. It was never of a question. I was like, all right, whatever.
No, I feel like because it's like if I just looked at her and I didn't know anything, I don't know if I would read half Latina personally.
Yeah, I guess like Cameron Diaz.
She would not give it to me. So the Lovato is like, okay, I see it.
Yeah.
Little spice.
I suppose.
little spice.
Also, her name in this is Mitchie, which I have personally made the decision that it's short for Michelada. I don't know, like, it just tracks to me.
I initially said Michaela.
But, I don't think that, like, but you maybe.
It could
but
be.
Michelada and Michaela are the same name.
Yeah, I know.
So, like, I think I can call her that.
I'm just saying, I don't...
And it's fine.
Just call her like a
It might kind of not be, and I know I've said before on this podcast to call people by their proper name, so maybe I shouldn't.
We don't know her. This is the issue, we don't know the character's real name. So we're just guessing.
So I think I'm just going to make a backstory for her.
No, this is
like I did for Nick Jonas.
This is the time where you step up and you say, call her by her Christian name, and you give her an elongated name that is not hers, and in this case, it's Michelada.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
That's her name.
And clearly both of her parents are supposed to be Latinx in this one. Because her last name is Torres.
Yeah, Michelada Torres.
Well,
I think that's a beautiful name. I think it's a beautiful name.
I'm not saying it's not. But I'm just saying Disney released the name.
Let us know.
Let us know what was the real character's name.
Because it can't be Mitchie.
It cannot be Mitchie.
Please tell me it's not Mitchie.
There's no world in which it's Mitchie.
No.
It also is possible that Mitchie is not related to her actual first name.
Yeah, no, that is
like it could be something like it's just a different name that you call her.
Could you imagine? My name is Daniela, but everybody just calls me Mitchie. I'd be like, girl, what?
It's spelled Daniela, but it's pronounced Mitchie.
Could you imagine?
That's
unfortunately we have to imagine because like.
We don't know.
And maybe that's why she tells the lie so easily in this, because she's accustomed to living a lie her whole life.
There's a lot of random celebrities though that do that. Like Meghan Markle's real name isn't Meghan.
Really?
Her first name is Rachel.
Listen,
I did know that.
Her middle name is Meghan.
This is not the time or the place to get into
the
lies of Meghan Markle.
Like that's a separate podcast to be released another time.
Entirely.
I'm just saying it's not uncommon for people to like use the middle name. But
it's true.
But yes, Mitchie Torres.
Yeah, G Torres.
And as soon as Joe Jonas sees her, he's like, "Ooh, young Latina girl."
No, that's not true. The first time he sees her is in the kitchen with the flour on her face.
When she's dusted.
She's dusted.
And that flour makes her teeth look yellow, and then she teaches him about manners for the first time in his 20 years.
In his life, yes. But he does get into an interesting conversation in that when he starts talking about, like, how you have to hold up, like, an image. Or he gets into it after when they actually connect. He gets into the idea of, like, if you're a rock star, you have to have this certain image, and that image is very much don't fuck with me. And, I do think it then spills over into, like, Demetria's problem this whole movie, which is that she can't be herself. Or she feels like she can't. She feels like she can't be honest about her, like, upbringing and everything. So, I feel like that's another thing in this movie is just, like, the overall idea of, like, who are you? And then who are you actually portraying yourself to be?
And I feel like that's, like, the antithesis of probably, from what I've heard, all their experiences, the Jonas's experiences and Demi's experience of, like, trying to fit into, like, this Disney box of, like, who are you and who are you portraying? Who you portray should be close to who you are. And it's like, no, that's a lie. Like, this is...
Yeah.
When you get famous, it gets confusing.
Yeah.
It gets very complicated.
Real fast. And I suppose I can understand that because I think on the other side of it, though, like, the idea of creating an image, creating a persona, creating something that is not you for the public to engage with, like, it does also track, I think, psychologically, a choice to make that as opposite from you as possible. It's like Beyonce and Sasha Fierce. I don't really know how much that holds up, but, like, in theory, that's what that persona is.
I feel like she had to go through that, though, to get to where she is now.
To get to self-titled?
Yeah.
I'm happy
to get to self-titled Lemonade.
Self-titled is when I could, hop on the bandwagon, for real. But yeah, so it's like, I don't know, and I think that it's funny that Disney makes a lot of these films, right?
Yeah.
Films about, like, stay true to who you are. And it is, Kate, as you're saying, the deep irony. That in order to be able to, like, star in these films, you have to do the exact opposite. Right. And it is something where it's like, you have to have a persona that is completely separate from whoever you are and whatever you might actually feel, want, desire, whatever. It has to fit this mold that Disney has created. Not just for you individually, but, like, for Disney as a brand.
As a brand. And you as a representative of that brand
at
Disney, right?
At all times.
At all times.
Right. Like, your social media, you don't have social media. You, as a representative of Disney, have social media.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And, like, I think that's funny because what I noticed, we talked a little bit about the wardrobe, but I noticed that it was a choice. They let Joe Jonas wear his purity ring for the whole movie. And it's like, that is so... Disney in some ways, and also, like, not. Like, the concept of, like, recognizing and acknowledging and discussing sex is sort of not Disney, but then if we're going to wait till marriage.
We're going to do abstinence.
Yeah, like, exactly.
We're going to preach abstinence.
Very much Disney.
But yeah, no, I do think you have, I think anytime you have, like, child stars, and specifically if they acted in, like, I think kids focused things, because I think it's a little bit different when they acted in, like, more adult focused things, like if you have somebody like a, not Drew Barrymore, but there's like Dakota Fanning, who was like in very adult things as a young child. That's a little bit different, but it's like, I think especially if you are a kid who's on a kids programming network or show or whatever, it's really hard to get out of that. And I think that's why you have so many children's stars who, when they grow up, they just start going quote unquote crazy because they like don't know how to escape the image that was created for them. And the one that's also brought them and most likely their family a lot of money, and that's become like your gravy train. So I feel like it is really complicated, and I think that's actually something that RuPaul always says is he's like, if you guys ever get famous, he's like, don't use your real name. Like, he's like, that's like the one thing he regrets is he's like, I wish I hadn't gone around like saying I was RuPaul all these years, because he's like, it's good to separate the two parts of yourself. But I do think that catches up with you.
Yeah,
you can't do that for too long.
I think what ends up happening, or the space that we sort of get into, especially with kids, right, coming into it, like you do have it with adults too, but it's just a situation of just fractured identity, and like that is something that can work for compartmentalizing. It is something that can work a lot, like like, psychologically, it's very helpful with, like, trying to, like, move yourself through trauma, like, if you're trying to, like, self-soothe and things like that. So it is something that can, like, keep you going in maybe not great circumstances for your psyche, but it is fundamentally not something that's meant to last.
Mm-hmm.
There is always supposed to be a reconciliation of, like, a full self, and like I said, it does happen with adults to a certain extent, like, once they sort of start going through this, and you see people talk about all the time, like, the fame coming overnight, and it changing the way that they relate to the world.
Yep.
And it's something that they don't realize until they're looking back 10 years later, and they're like, oh, wait, now my relation to the world has changed, but I'm not sure what that means. But with kids, like, their identities are literally being formed while that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So they come out of the space and they literally don't have a full self.
Right.
That's been completely made. Or, like, not one that isn't fractured.
Right.
And not to say that, like, because again, like, there are child stars that, like, do fine and are able to reconcile
the two.
You know, the two or the multiple or whatever those pieces are. But it also makes sense why there are a lot who struggle with that coming out of it. And in theory, these movies should be good because they, like, teach kids not to do that, to, like, accept who you are and, like, move with that through life. It's just, I think the problem is, or, like, not the deep irony, but the deep hypocrisy of, you know, our society is that the reality of success that we put in front of them in real life tells us that is absolutely not true. That staying true to yourself is probably not going to
lead to
these things that you want.
Right. Yeah, I think even Demi Lovato, she put out a documentary on YouTube, which you can watch because it's free, called Simply Complicated, like 2 years ago, I think. It's either maybe 2017. It's really good, by the way. You should watch it. But she does talk about how, like, I think when she got Sunny with the Chance, which was, like, her show that she helmed after this, it was on Disney for, like, a couple years. Like, by that point, she was already on so many drugs and, like, was drinking, was, like, an alcoholic because she couldn't cope. Like, she just never really learned how to, like, reconcile things. And I feel like that's, like, really common, you know, unfortunately, with a lot of child stars, like Nina was saying, because you just don't learn it.
And also,
but you see it.
She and Joe Jonas, like, were in a relationship, and, like, the Jonas Brothers were really heavily involved in the production of her first album, and it's, like, that line blurs also on a professional level, so, like, while you're trying to, like, run these two tracks, like, they're blurring in order to sell. So, you know, I think that must have complicated things for her even more so, where it's, like, this relationship that she has with Joe Jonas on screen for Camp Rock, for children, is also running parallel to a real relationship she's trying to develop that's also running parallel to selling albums for her. Mm-hmm. So, like, with them, you know, like, it's all very, very complicated, and I'm sure that, like, all of that conflation really, you have to escape at some point, because there's no safe haven. There's no boundary of personal, professional, whether it be acting or singing or whatever it is, so. And
you don't really get to grow up either. I think that's the other hard part. And I think that's what we see with a lot of them, is that it's like you're kind of, like, people shrink you and, like, keep you in whatever, like, form they first saw you in.
Mm-hmm. Like, there's a true state of Arrested Development.
Right. Like, it's like you're just constantly going to be, you know, at this point, probably a couple years, like, after this, you're the girl from Camp Rock. Even if you're, like, a fully grown 23-year-old woman. Right. You're the girl from Camp Rock, or you're the girl from Sunny with a Chance, and she's like, I'm 25. Like, I'm just like, I now make my own music.
That's not
like,
relevant anymore. It's not.
But it is one of those things where it's just like you never really grow out of it. It's really unfortunate, because that's just how a lot of people see you. So you never fully get to grow up. So I feel like for a lot of them, unfortunately, they go one of many ways, and it's like to feel like they are getting something, you know, or feeling something in a different way, not just adoration from 10-year-olds. No offense to 10-year-olds, but.
So all the ones.
But when you're like 25 and you've been doing this for a while, you do get a point where you're just like, I want to relate to other 25-year-olds. Like,
yeah, it would be nice to talk to them for a moment. It sucks when I'm in the street and it's only children that are around.
Right, exactly. You know,
and peers.
Well, because I think it's also different when you're like older and you do kids things. Like I think of Monique Coleman, who's in High School Musical, who was like 24 or something when they shot High School Musical, which is insane. And she plays Gabriella's like best friend, but she's never had any issues because she was a fully grown woman by the time she was on it, so she probably doesn't care because she's just like, listen, a fan's a fan,
right?
Yeah.
And I've already lived my life.
Also, they probably weren't. That's where it gets like weird. They're probably not going to push that publicity with that person, with that actress as much,
right?
Because like they know that it's not gonna last too. You know what I mean? It's not gonna. It's gonna fade.
Yeah, and then the relation is like not there as much because she's like, I can't really relate to you 10-year-olds. It's been a minute since I've been there. Like, whereas it's like Demi's like what? Let's say 15 in this, right? So it's like, you know what? 10 years, it's not that far in your life, like in the whole of your life, but like at 24, it's like, it's been a minute. Like I've been through a lot. There's been a lot of growth.
Yeah, at that point, it's more than a third of your life.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's not more than 10 years. It's not more than a third of your life. But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's like it's a solid chunk. That's like close to half. So it's a huge percentage. Yeah, so I don't know. I guess with all of that being said, how do we feel? I guess Katie will ask you first, since you're our guest. Would you show this to your kids?
Yeah, I would. I think it's fun. I grew up in a house, we love musicals. So like this is just a musical. Like this, and there are variations on it, like, but I would put it like in the same sort of vein of like The Wizard of Oz, where it's like it's a digestible story for children with good music. I wouldn't say it's not like The Sound of Music. There's no, crazy World War II Nazi backstory. Like there's nothing heavy.
You gotta be like, huh?
For my kids to carry, like, and I would want them to internalize something like this. Like, maybe not that, like, being true to yourself leads to success, but that it leads to comfort and happiness. And those are tools. And, like, I would want my kids. So, like, yes, it makes it so much easier than explaining it as an adult. But I would fear that they would walk out and be like, Mommy, I need a sequin jacket. And I'd be like, that's going to blind me, so it's going to be a no for me, dog. Like, I'm sorry.
And Bermuda shorts.
Oh,
and Bermuda
shorts.
There's so many Bermuda shorts in this film.
They really are all.
Even though they were filming in the winter in Canada, like
which is why is it like Disney? Like, let me not. Sorry.
Yeah, don't shit on them.
Let me run that back.
I still want to know what Mitchie's full name is, so don't shit on them, alright?
Let me run that back.
Hopefully they tell us in the
There seems to have been.
I hope that's in like paragraph 3.
Yep.
By the way, Mitchie's real name is...
They're going to bury it to make sure that we read every piece of the cease and desist. They're going to be like, so if you see paragraph 16, section B, like subparagraph 2, that's where Mitchie's real name is listed.
But yeah, I'll just say, like, I think that you can kind of tell while watching it that these actors, they went through conditions to bring this to the children.
They look cold.
They look so cold.
They look cold during a lot of it, and we looked it up, and it's because they were filming this in September, October in like it wasn't even Toronto. It was like Upper Ontario.
So crazy. I would be so
those poor
sad.
things were probably literally like freezing.
That's why
there
they're
so many layers.
6 shirts and jeans and boots, like at summer camp.
At summer camp. The best shorts they could do were Bermuda shorts. They were kind of long. Yeah. You get a little bit of...
They were so happy whenever they had interior shots.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
They're like, oh, we're in the cabin.
Yeah, and that's why all the dance scenes are like indoors. They're like, we're gonna dance in the studio. Like, you're at a summer camp. Why wouldn't you dance outside? Like,
right.
So real.
To stay warm. Got it.
Yes.
Yeah. I think for me, yeah, like they can watch it. Why not? Like you said, Katie. There's nothing negative about it. Not particularly like there's, and I really do. I love that homegirl literally drowns in her lies. Like that's great.
Yes.
It is fantastic that my kids will hear that, and I'll be like, great. I don't have to tell you not to lie. Like you see what happens.
You drown in them.
You see what you drown in it. Okay. I also do really like something I really like in this film is that in contrast, fuck Uncle Brown. First of all, why is he being called Uncle Brown? That was brought to my attention.
You never ever refer to your uncle by their last name. That's
weird.
So confusing.
It's so weird.
It's like Uncle Mike, Uncle Tim, Uncle Rich, Uncle Brown? Is
Uncle
his
Brown.
first name Brown?
I think
his first name actually is Brown.
All
That's
the first
absurd.
names, all the
Which
first
is
names
weird.
in this, like Mitchie and Brown. It's just very odd.
Margaret, aka Peggy.
The original and Peggy.
But I really like, because he does that thing that I think adults should never do, where they only listen to one child who speaks.
Yeah.
During an incident, and dismisses anything that the other children say because the other kids spoke first. And it's like, well, just don't do that.
Yeah.
Usually when children are adamant about something, it's because, like...
And the encouragement of manipulation. Like, when she's like, oh, she threw the spaghetti first. Like, well, technically that's true, but it's like, to manipulate the whole situation.
Yeah.
Like, to encourage that is to encourage lying.
She also threw it on her before. She spilled
She dumped it on her before.
Exactly.
She literally was just like, flipping.
You should have been like,
that plain, unseasoned
oh my God.
spaghetti.
Yeah, we need to talk about that.
Those are some DOE regulations on that food, because there is no way that
it was like it was just like plain noodles.
That looks like that.
Like it was like somebody had literally just boiled noodles and then told
Put
them
them
to
on
eat
a
it.
bowl of vegetables in the middle.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
There was no
Uncooked
butter,
vegetables,
no
not
sauce.
uncooked,
No
but,
salt, no pepper, no
steamed.
sauce, nothing. I mean, I blame Mitchie for this one. She was out fucking around in the canoe with Joe Jonas. She didn't have time to make the sauce.
With
but,
her
like,
mom, yes.
But also,
Like, she should have.
those noodles were naked, alright?
It was horrible.
It was so weird.
But
it was so weird.
I really do like Mitchie's mom in this
Yes.
a lot. And I like that representation. I like to see films and I like the idea of my kids watching films where like where the parents in it are parents that like are understanding and parents that like stand up for their kids and where they get that representation sort of shown to them, because like I just always worry, like I want to be that type of parent with my kid. I know that there are gonna be things where they don't do it because all kids are like that, but I want my kids to know that they're supported and loved, and that, like my mom really said this to me the other day because I did something kind of dumb and I didn't tell her about it. And then when I did tell her about it, she was like, listen, when things happen, can you call me and then let me kill you after? Like, but call me first so I can help you out. And I feel like that's Mitchie's mom in this, and I really appreciate that. So, yeah, my kids can definitely watch it. Again, like, I'm probably not going to sit down and watch it with you, but I wouldn't mind hearing This Is Me playing in the background every now and then. Because I didn't even know that I knew anything from this film. Like I said, I was too busy getting high to watch it. But apparently, I know all the words to This Is Me from muscle memory. Just from hearing it on the radio, I guess. So, there you go.
Yeah, I think I would also say, like, yeah, of course they can watch it. It's a fun little musical. I mean, I would also say if you somewhat remember it, it's not a bad rewatch. It was fine. And, just shout out to Alison Stoner. She's been working hard ever since she was on Mike's Super Short Show.
Really has.
And, like,
So
first was in a
Gossip
Missy...
Folks
Yeah, it was first in a
music
Missy
video.
Elliott video because she's an actual hip-hop dancer, so why they didn't have her as a dancer in this, I don't understand.
Oh, that's because only the
Maybe
boys
she
can
was-
dance.
Yeah.
Only the boys.
Only the boys
can
can dance. The girls can't dance.
The girls can only
Unless
sing,
they're behind Tess.
Yeah, and even then, they did the...
And the drummer can't dance either.
And
He
the
dances with his hands.
Yeah.
He dances with his hands.
And his cornrows.
Yeah.
So long.
We need to get the beat from the sticks to your feet. Like,
Yeah,
oh God.
good God.
Someone got paid to write that.
Could you imagine
Why
Joe Jonas saying that
was
to you?
Joe Jonas teaching a hip hop dance class?
That's the other big question I had.
Oof.
I am offended by
He
that.
wasn't even teaching. That was the laziest teaching.
He
That was
was
the American
showing off.
school system right there. He's like, follow me if you can. I'm like,
Follow
what
me
kind of
if
aimless
you
bullshit is this? How dare you?
Follow me if you can.
If you can. Grab a mic and a hat. No.
Why do you need a mic and a hat?
It was
dance
a
class?
time of Neo.
Can you teach me choreography first?
He said no.
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 He said, follow me if you can.
And then he makes Demi cry
He does.
Yeah.
for doing the exact same thing that he does all the time.
Yeah.
Because
He was
gets
a
paid to do it.
problematic man in this film.
He was.
He
Yeah.
was a problematic
He was a jerk.
boy.
She said
Man
that quite
pretending to be a boy
Yeah.
in this film.
Man pretending. A man child.
Oh, man, child.
He was a man child. But yeah, I mean, I think with that, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of The Critics Kingdom. Don't forget to follow us on Spotify and SoundCloud so you can stay up to date, as well as interacting and letting us know what you guys think on social media. You can find us on Twitter at Critics Kingdom and on Instagram at The Critics Kingdom. We're excited to talk to you again next week.